Alright, welcome back, Yeet Nation, to another episode of Cowboys Talk. Today, I'll be covering the draft, all our draft picks, the undrafted free agents, go through over their stats, what I think about the pick, and just general stuff about that. But before I go into the draft, I'd like to do a quick overview of all the other Dallas sports right now. So, the Mavericks are still in Cancun, of course. Hey, at least the Memphis Grizzlies can now join us, so that we won't be too lonely anymore. The Dallas Stars beat the Minnesota Wild in 6. So they will be heading to the second round for the first time under head coach Pete DeBoer. And they will face either the Seattle Kraken or the Colorado Avalanche. And in my personal humble opinion, I'd much rather play Seattle because I don't think they're as good as Colorado. And plus, this is actually their first playoff run as a franchise because this is only their second year in existence. So that's what's going on in the hockey world. I don't really watch hockey per se, but I certainly keep up with what they're doing because they are still a Dallas sport team. Next up, National Lacrosse League. This is one of the low-key kind of underrated sports out there. The Panther City Lacrosse Club, and for those who don't understand, it's me and Gavin were based out of Fort Worth, and for some reason, Fort Worth is sometimes called Panther City, but it's also we also have a slogan. It's where the West begins. I don't really buy that, but hit the mic. But that's just kind of what they say. That's what they call it. We are west of Dallas, so there is that. And then the Texas Rangers. They just beat the New York Yankees 2-0 yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't watch the Rangers. Well, maybe not so unfortunately because they've been kind of scuffling as of late. But I didn't watch the Rangers these past couple days because I was watching the draft. I watched all of day 1, all of day 2, and all of day 3. Day 3 ended up being 6 hours long, which I didn't expect it to last that long. But I did watch it all. And so the Rangers, they have managed to stop their losing streak. They were on a 4-game losing streak. They got swept by the Reds. They blew 2 inexcusable leads. I would say that second Cincinnati Red game, they were up 6-0. They allowed 1 run in the bottom of the 7th. The bullpen absolutely imploded. They allowed 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th. I was so pissed off, man. But yeah, that was probably the worst loss of the season. Either that or the Chicago game where they had 5 errors, because 5 errors is just kind of inexcusable if you're a professional baseball player, really. Well, team, rather. But they managed to stop the 4-game losing streak. They beat the Yankees 5-2. And then on day 3 of the draft, they beat the Yankees 2-0. Nathan Eovaldi, Nasty Nate, they call him. He threw a complete game shutout, all 9 innings, only 3 hits allowed, no walks drawn, 8 strikeouts. That's a damn good game, in my opinion. On the 5-2 win on day 2 of the draft, unfortunately, what New York Met fans have said about Jacob deGrom is coming true. I mean, I knew he was injury prone, but not this bad. Now, they say it's just precaution. They say they're just taking him out because of precaution, which I hope is true. But last I saw, he did go on the 15-day IL, which is not great. But enough of that. We're here for the real deal. The 5-time Super Bowl champions, Dallas Cowboys. So let's see the new members that are going to be joining the team in 2023. So for round 1, they grabbed up Mozzie Smith, defensive tackle out of Michigan. He is 6'3", 337. And so let me just go through his overview real quick. So he is an absolutely massive defensive tackle, really great at stopping the run, and you'll see that as I go through some of these picks is they definitely emphasized stopping the run because they were 22nd in rushing defense last year and they allowed a ton of rushing yards. They got better as the season went on, but it's definitely a weak point for the Cowboys, and I think that's what they were thinking of drafting this guy for. And so, in 2022 at Michigan, he had 49 total tackles, 15 solo, 23 assisted. He had 1 sack and 1 forced fumble. And that's one thing to know. I mean, he's a defensive tackle, so sacks he's really not going to be getting any sacks. He's just there to clog up the middle and be a disruptor generally. That's what he's for. And I saw Micah really endorse this pick. I personally like it. I give this pick a B+. I think I probably would have had some other guys, but those guys were already taken. So you can't really, follow that. But overall, pretty solid pick. I definitely like this one. In round 2, though, is where we go off the rails a little bit. Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end. He's 6'6", 250. Picked him up in round 2, pick 58. And this was definitely a reach. I mean, Darnell Washington was right there. Now, I know that teams didn't want to pick Darnell Washington because of his injury history. And he had a foot and a knee injury, or maybe just a foot injury. I can't really know. I can't really tell because I haven't looked specifically. But he had one of those. And, they say that big guys that have injuries, they linger and they stay and they continue to be a problem. And I guess that's true, but I feel like I would have taken the gamble on Darnell Washington or just taken someone else entirely. But they go Luke Schoonmaker. Definitely a bit of a reach here. At Michigan last year, he had 35 receptions for 418 yards, 11.9 average per catch, and 3 touchdowns with the longest catch of 40. Now, when it comes to college football, I do watch it, but I'm really not a huge college fan. I definitely prefer the NFL. But my teams, I like BYU kind of, but that was mostly just for Zach Wilson. He did not pan out in the NFL so far. He could still, but it's not great so far. But I love all the Texas teams, so TCU, the Longhorns, which I think is kind of illegal for college football fans because you're not really supposed to root for other universities. If you're stomach growling. If you're a Longhorns fan, you can't root for the other Texas teams. But since I don't really care about college football like that, I just kind of root for everyone. So I watched all the TCU, all the Longhorn games. That's going to come relevant here soon. But all the TCU games and the college football playoff game versus Michigan that TCU played, Luke Schoonmaker, he didn't show up. I don't remember, I don't really remember his name being called at all. I don't really remember anything of that sort happening. So, he kind of didn't show up in that game, but that's not too big a deal. I'm just basing off of what I know about him. As far as the depth chart, I'd still say Ferguson, Ferguson. I'd still say Ferguson is your tight end 1, which makes this pick not great because round 2, you typically want your round 2 guy to be a starter instantly, but he's not gonna, I don't think. But he certainly could. He's definitely a better blocker than Dalton Schultz was. Thank you, Houston, for taking him. And Noah Brown. Houston really came in clutch. They took 2 guys that were liabilities on this team, really. So, because Dalton Schultz was such a bad blocker, Luke Schoonmaker is a better blocker, but he doesn't give any yak ability, which is what I really wanted. I wanted Dalton Kincaid. If they were going to go round 1 tight end, I wanted Dalton Kincaid. But, of course, Buffalo, that picked right before 26, or 58. Oh, wait, no. This is round 2, so never mind that. But if they were going to go tight end, I wanted Kincaid, but he got taken in the first round. Next up, round 3. Now, this one is a big one for me as a Longhorns fan because DeMarvion Overshown, he just makes plays. I mean, I would watch a lot of Longhorn games the past years, and DeMarvion Overshown is a guy that you would always hear his name called. He's a playmaker on defense. He is a hard tackler, really speedy, great athleticism. He's 6'4", 224. Cowboys picked him up in round 3 at pick 90. This past season, he had 95 total tackles, 49 solo, and 45 assisted, so that's a lot of production. He had 5 passes defended, 4 sacks. He's also a former safety. He was at Texas for quite a while. He actually played a senior season because he could have been drafted last year, but I think it was smarter for him because this was his best season so far, and if he didn't go for a senior season, he probably would have been probably like a 5th or 6th rounder if he didn't attend this senior season. But I just really like this. This is some linebacker depth. He's probably not going to start immediately. Put him on special teams or something like that. This defense has so much depth. Like, there isn't a single weak spot on this defense, especially after the addition of Stephon Gilmore from free agency. And that was so weird. Like, Dallas usually doesn't have a good free agency at all. So it was really surprising to see them, you know, go for Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. But hey, I'll take it. So yeah, since there's so much depth on this team, this guy he's gonna have to ball out in training camp to steal someone's job, either Damone Clark or LVE, or he's just gonna have to wait his turn, and that's fine because if that means you're building your team properly. When you have so many good players that your draft picks are going to have to steal someone else's job to get starting time, well, that's how you know you got a good team. And in round 4, we picked up Viliami Fehoko, defensive end out of San Jose State, but they're going to play him at defensive tackle, I believe, if he bulks up a bit more. I think that's what they said they were going to do. He's 6'4", 263, had a lot of production at San Jose State this past season. He had 69 total tackles, 41 solo, 28 assisted, 1 pass defended, 9 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. And just looking at those numbers, I mean, those are definitely intriguing numbers. I believe he had a 21% pass rush win rate, which is like, oh my god, that's amazing. And he also 99 percentile against the run. So you're seeing that pattern here. The Cowboys want to beef up their D-line. They do not want to get ran on anymore, which I certainly respect. Because if you can put away the run game, and along with that elite pass rush, this is going to be like a top 5 defense, and that's not even considering all those other guys they have in the secondary. The 3-headed monster at safety. You obviously have Donovan Wilson. You got Jaron Kearse, who took number 0, so unfortunately, Agent 0, DeMarvion Overshown, is going to have to go with someone else. And you have Malik Hooker. And those 3 guys are all really good. So, yeah, that's basically all I have to say about this pick. Probably just another rotational guy. Oh, wait, I got to get my grades. I don't know if I said this. Mozzie Smith, I give a B+ grade. Schoonmaker, I give a C grade. DeMarvion Overshown, I also give a B grade. And Viliami Fehoko, I give a B+ grade to. And in the 5th round, they decided to beef up their O-line, which I think is smart. This guy might play guard, considering Connor McGovern left to Buffalo in the offseason. And obviously, he's a lineman, so there's not a lot of stats to go off of. But from the University of North Carolina GoHeels.com website itself, I can read that he started all 14 games on the offensive line. He earned 3rd team All-ACC honors. He played 1,049 snaps, which is a lot, at left tackle and allowed only 3 sacks. So that's production right there. He blocked for an offense that averaged 309.3 yards per passing game, 462.8 total yards per game, and 34 points per game. I think this is a pretty good pick. Honestly, I don't really know too much about linemen, so I guess we'll just have to see. He's got a lot of other great linemen to learn from. Probably, again, not going to be a day 1 starter, but the only guy I see being a day 1 starter on this are one guy we'll get to, and Mozzie Smith is definitely going to be a day 1 starter. But other than that, all these guys are going to have to work to get their position. But, I mean, Donovan Wilson, he wasn't a starter for the longest, and look, he's reaping the benefits right there. He's reaping the rewards, so you just got to wait your turn. In the 5th round, I'm not too big on this pick here. They traded up to get corner Eric Scott Jr. from University of Southern Michigan. And this past season, he had... Okay, stop with the soccer. This past season, he had 27 total tackles, 16 solo, 9 assisted. He had 5 pass defended, and he had 2 picks. Both of those were returned for a pick six. So that's interesting. He's 6'2", 202 pounds. They picked him up in the 6th round, 178. I'm not a huge fan of this pick, but I also don't know too much about him either. But the reason I'm not a huge fan of it is because they didn't need to trade up to get this guy. Like, I'm sorry, but like, these other teams are not in a rush to draft Eric Scott Jr. They could have just held their position and drafted him then. But, you know, I guess it does move them up for the 7th round, and maybe there's a guy they really wanted there. So, yeah. That's really all I have to say about this. I'll give this like a C or a D pick. Next up, my personal favorite, and I think most people's favorite, draft pick of this 2023 class. We got Deuce Vaughn, the 5'6" running back out of Kansas State. He's only 176, and obviously, yes, he's undersized, but I don't care about that because there's been undersized running backs in the past that have flourished in the NFL. So that doesn't really mean anything to me. We picked him up 6th round, pick 212. He is extremely versatile. He's a great pass catcher. He's very shifty. He is super hard to tackle. This past season at Kansas State, he had 293 carries for 1,500 yards, 5.3 average per carry, and 9 touchdowns, the longest run of 88. He's definitely a home run hitter is what you would say. Just like Tony Pollard. So they have 2 running backs that can absolutely take it to the house. At 2021, pretty similar stat line. He had 235 carries for 1,400 yards, 6 average per carry, and 18 touchdowns for the longest of 80. As far as his receiving stats goes, for 2022, he had 42 receptions for 378, 9 per average, and 3 touchdowns. 2021, he had 49 receptions for 468 yards, 9.6 per catch, and 4 touchdowns. So like I said, he's very versatile, extremely hard to tackle. He can catch it and he can rush it. He's also done a bit of returning. So he had 7 kickoffs for 149 yards. So maybe the Cowboys will use him that way, but I don't know. Like, I feel like they would probably use him as a rotational with Tony Pollard. So Tony Pollard is probably going to be the starter, and then Deuce Vaughn can come in and get some work. And I'm really excited to watch this guy play. I hope he balls out, especially behind this O-line we got, which is a pretty good O-line. It's gonna be healthy because we got Terrence Steele's coming back. Plus, you get some more depth with guys like Matt Waletzko that were injured last year coming back too. So we'll just have to see. And then in the 7th round, 7th round is like whatever. Like, it's kind of hard to have a terrible 7th round pick. They go with Jalen Brooks, a wide receiver out of South Carolina, 6'2", 205, and they picked him up at pick 244. I'm kind of confused about this because I don't really have, like his stat line is obviously, now you don't want to really draft off of stats, but like looking at his stat line, he didn't do a whole lot. This past season, he had 33 receptions for 504 yards, 15.3 average, and 1 touchdown. And 2021, he had 14 receptions for 181, 12.9 average per catch, and again, only 1 touchdown. And 3 years at South Carolina, he's got 2 touchdowns. So that's not a lot of production. So it's kind of confusing, especially because there was better wide receivers right there that you could have went in the 7th round. It's not too big a deal because they did pick up some undrafted free agents, which I will talk about now. Oh, and also, so Eric Scott Jr., I gave a C, I think. Deuce Vaughn, I give an A+ grade to. And Jalen Brooks, I give a D grade to. Not quite an F because he's a 7th rounder. You can't really mess up a 7th rounder because there's already no expectations for them to be anything, you know? And finally, I'll just go through the undrafted free agents they picked up. They got North Dakota State fullback Hunter Lupke. I'm not quite sure. A lot of people were hyped about this because apparently he was like the best player left on the board as far as undrafted free agents go. They got Mississippi State outside linebacker Tyrus Wheat. They got West Florida wide receiver David Durden, Florida A&M edge Isaiah Land, Kansas offensive tackle Earl Bostick Jr., Tennessee tight end Princeton. He's the cousin of Seahawks tight end Noah Fant. That's interesting. A Fresno State wide receiver Jalen Moreno Cropper. That guy's probably better than Jalen Brooks, I think. Temple wide receiver Jose Barbin, and Oregon O-lineman TJ Bass. Oh wait, one more. Liberty outside linebacker Darrell Johnson. Note, the Cowboys visited with small school star Johnson after a senior season for the Flames in which the 6'3", 240-pound pass rusher accounted for 58 tackles and 9 sacks in 2022. So those are your undrafted free agents. Obviously, not a lot of these guys are going to make the team, but because, just the amount of players you can have, and a lot of them go undrafted for a reason, which I'm sorry to say, but, typically, if you're drafted later, there's a reason why. It's because you're much more raw talent. Earlier rounds, you're going to go with guys that you think could start day one or will start in the future. And then in the later rounds, you're just kind of throwing paper at the wall, just hoping, we'll go with corner, we'll pick up this guy, we'll pick up this wide receiver. He might, do something for us in the future. He might play a small role, might ball out on special teams, which is underrated. Special teams is definitely important. So some of these guys like Eric Scott Jr. and Jalen Brooks, they could definitely be special teamers, I'd imagine. So yeah, that's just my overview, just my thoughts on the draft. Overall, I'm gonna give this draft, a B+. I'm not mad about it. I know a lot of Cowboys fans were mad about it because a lot of Cowboys fans just like to complain about absolutely everything, which I understand, but because of how long it's been since even an NFC Championship, but the team is heading in the right direction. The stability we have under Mike McCarthy and this coaching staff is stability unlike we've seen in a long time. I think this is a guaranteed playoff team. Not a guaranteed, but I think this is a surefire playoff team this season, especially with how weaker the NFC conference is. I mean, Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets. I didn't even talk about that in a video. But yeah, Rodgers to the Jets. And the Cowboys are going to play the Jets. And you know what? The NFL is probably going to screw us over and throw it on Thanksgiving. Because, of course, they would. We bring in the money, so obviously they want us to be front and center all the time, which is another thing that's annoying about the Cowboys. I do wish they were kind of more low-key, like the Carolina Panthers or like the Cardinals. No one's really talking about the Cardinals or the Panthers unless something super relevant's happening. With the Cowboys, you get talked about all the time. So, kind of annoying in that aspect of, Cowboys fans, because a lot of them are just big market team fans. There's plenty of people out there who are Cowboys, Yankees, Lakers fans, and they're only fans of these teams because of how big they are, but I just root for the Cowboys because it's my hometown team, so that's why I root for them. Yeah, so B+ grade for my draft, this draft rather. Yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching Yeet Nation, and I will see you soon, probably for the schedule release. Please, NFL, give us someone that we can beat week 1. I'm so tired of starting 0-1. Thank you for watching Yeet Nation, and I will catch you soon.